Hi, and welcome to Reasonably Catholic. In this season 3, we look at the moral teachings of the Church. And today, we are looking at what the Church has to say about in vitro fertilization, or which is called IVF. There is a whole mess of problems with IVF, and some techniques are worse than the others. Some, for example, collect the germ cells from the people who are not married to each other and collect them in a morally illicit manner. Some also produce large numbers of children who are either allowed to die or who are frozen indefinitely. The least objectionable version would be homologous, which means a married couple, IVF, where the germ cells are collected from married parents in a morally licit manner and everything is done to protect the life of the child and of the children thus conceived. However, even this form of IVF is immoral. In its instruction, Donum Vitae, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, or the called CDF, explains that the Church remains opposed from the moral point of view to homologous in vitro fertilization. Such fertilization is in itself illicit and in opposition to the dignity of procreation and of the conjugal union, even when everything is done to avoid the death of the human embryo. The CDF also notes, although the manner in which human conception is achieved with IVF and ET, which is embryo transplant, cannot be approved, every child who comes into the world must, in any case, be accepted as a life gift of the divine goodness and must be brought up with love. Not everyone may agree with such teachings or succeed in living up to them at all times, but they still get it. The teaching on IVF is harder to grasp. It creates human life. It makes babies for people who want to love and care for them. How can this be bad? Isn't the Church, after all, in favor of life? So, how can we explain this hard teaching to others, Catholic and non-Catholic, in a way that speaks to the reasons why so many people refuse to accept it and that shows compassion for the painful burden of infertility? I'll offer 4 points to keep in mind. Number 1, life is a gift, not a right. God gives life as a pure gift, not as something owed. Indeed, as Donum Vitae puts it, it's not parents who have the rights here, but the child, specifically the right to be the fruit of the specific act of conjugal love of his parents, and the right to be respected as a person from the moment of his conception. Once we understand this, and I think most people, upon reflection, can see it, we see some of the justification of anti-IVF stance. Number 2, doing justice to the Creator. God does not owe us children, but we do owe Him something, obedience to His moral law, which is, as Catholics, we believe the Church communicates without error. It is God's right to require that the transmission of life be natural consequence of the conjugal act, or to put it in another way, that is, it flows naturally from the love between husband and wife who cooperate with God as co-creators by calling into existence new persons with immortal souls and eternal destinies. Number 3, unintended consequences. The Church's teaching on IVF is based first and foremost on the immorality of the act itself. But in many cases, there are side issues like the medium of receiving the sperm, completely divorcing love and procreation, using technology to make human life a commodity, selective reduction to abort the unnecessary embryos, freeze them for experiments in the future. These would make it problematic even if it were not itself immoral. Number 4, know the alternatives. Answering doubts about Church teaching on IVF must positively and pastorally address the plight of couples who have difficulty conceiving. First, by educating them on the healthy, effective, and pro-fertility options they have. The work of Pope Paul VI Institute, whose NAPRO technology revolutionized reproductive health, is a prime but by no means the only example. Women and couples must be reassured that they are not failures, that they are not being cursed or punished by God. In fact, He likely has special plans for them. we believe that God permits both moral and physical evils in order to accomplish a greater good. So, in conclusion, since God is the author of all life, let's cooperate with Him to create life and never exclude Him or His designs for creating life from it. So, was that reasonable? Let us know in the comments section below. And until the next week, bye.